morning, everyone. It's a classically spectacular fall day here at Penn State Behrend. I wish you could see it. We've been blessed with some beautiful 70-degree weather this week. I am happy to welcome you to this Rise and Shine seminar. I'd like to go through a few housekeeping items before we get going. First of all, everyone has been muted to avoid technical issues. If at any time you have a question, please use the Q&A button in the bottom center of your screen. We will try to answer all the questions live, and if we can't, we will certainly follow up with you after the seminar for those questions we did not answer. At the end of the webinar, we will provide contact information for the session, and we will also provide a link for more information so you can directly reach out to us regarding this seminar. So thank you. We'll now get started. I'll give about 10 seconds here, and we will move into the webinar. So as you can see on your screen here today, we'd like to welcome you to Penn State Behrend's Rise and Shine webinar titled Behrend Collaborates for Women's Health. It's one of our very new and very exciting initiatives that you'll hear a lot more about from our two presenters today. I'm Kevin Moore, Director of Development and Alumni Relations here at Penn State Behrend, and I'm your moderator. I'd like to welcome Dr. Ivor Knight and Dr. Helena Szynski. Dr. Ivor Knight is the Associate Dean for Research and Graduate Studies here at Penn State Behrend, and Dr. Szynski is the Medical Director at the McGee Women's Research Institute in Erie. Dr. Ivor Knight will help to lead the Penn State Behrend project as the Academic and Research Commercialization Partner for the McGee Women's Research Institute here in Erie, PA. The college will partner with MWRI Erie, co-locating faculty members and students at the Institute's downtown facility and at the new Biomedical Commercialization and Translational Research Lab in Knowledge Park here on campus. Both sites will support economic development in Erie by sustaining and building on the MWRI Erie's clinical research. Dr. Helena Szynski is the Medical Director for the McGee Women's Research Institute here in Erie. In partnership with UPMC, McGee Women's Research Institute in Pittsburgh, and Foundation, Penn State Behrend, she will bring research expertise and help to lead the effort around the clinical trials in areas including reproductive development, pregnancy and newborn medicine, infectious disease, gynecology, reproductive endocrinology, women's cancers, and women's wellness in general. I'd like to welcome Drs. Knight and Szynski. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate it. Glad to be here with everyone, sharing you with my morning tea. I hope we can have a very productive meeting this morning and talk a little bit about this exciting new project. Give me a moment here while I share my screen. Alrighty, let's get started. MWRI Erie, or McGee Women's Research Institute in Erie, is a research institute that we announced about a year ago, just over a year ago, and its whole focus is to conduct clinical studies and advanced therapeutic trials in Erie with these goals in mind: improve the health of women in the region, increase federal research dollars, create healthcare and academic partnerships, commercialize research and create new businesses, increasing employment, leveraging our existing commitments in these areas, and also enhance physician recruitment to the Erie region. The photo you see here is a photo of many of the principals that were involved in putting this together. As I said, this was a photo from the announcement just last year, but prior to that, all of these folks have been involved in putting this together for about a year and a half prior to that. So principally, it is a transformative partnership for Erie, but principally the operational components are both here at Penn State Behrend and at the McGee Women's Research Institute. But there is a constellation of collaborators and partners, both working hard to operationalize the Research Institute, but also to support it financially. we received a large transformative grant from the Erie Community Foundation to help us get kicked off. But Penn State University and the McGee Women's Research Foundation are both putting in significant dollars to get this kicked off. And of course, UPMC Hammett and a variety of philanthropies are working very closely with us and supporting us. We started out with a $26 million commitment, and we built a 5-year plan to establish this research center. So I want to talk a little bit about how things have gone in the first year, and just provide just a little bit of background about why this might be an impact for Erie. And one of the areas that has been identified as a potential growth area for the economy of Erie is in the life sciences. About a year ago, the Chamber of Commerce put out a report called the Competitive Realities Report, Target Industry Strategy for Erie County, Pennsylvania. And it identified as one of the primary areas for a new area of business for Erie is the life sciences, which includes the biomedical area. This is not an area where we have a lot of industry in Erie, but it is a great potential for growth, along with a lot of the other areas that were identified, for example, in the advanced manufacturing sector, et cetera. But this is a new one. This is life sciences. This is biomedical research, clinical research and development, pharmaceutical operations, medical device manufacturing, medical and diagnostic laboratories, and as well as a sort of a constellation of other firms. And to get this started, you have to start somewhere, and this is an opportunity, I think, for us to sort of put a beginning to this whole idea of a future in life sciences for Erie. Now, those of you who, I think many of you are familiar with the McGee Women's Research Institute, but for those who are not, let me talk just a little bit about it. The McGee Women's Research Institute is the largest research institute in the US devoted exclusively to women's health research. They're making discoveries in a variety of areas, including reproductive biology, cancer, HIV, fertility, and clinical surgeries directed primarily for women. And they're located in Oakland, down in Pittsburgh, and have a really nice building, and they're just building a new building. And they would like to expand and position themselves in Western Pennsylvania by opening this research institute in collaboration with Penn State Behrend here in Erie. So why Penn State Behrend? Well, we are the preferred academic partner for this operation. We have great capabilities in engineering and science, and we have a lot of experience working with industry partners in various research programs, both applied research and also in technology transformation, bringing products to helping local businesses bring products to market through our research capability. We are Penn State, and so we have a world-class brand name, and we can provide an academic home for the MWRI researchers who will be located here. We are a great research collaborator. We can provide access to our faculty here in Behrend, as well as the faculty and resources at Penn State University across the Commonwealth. And finally, we do provide a pipeline of talent of undergraduate and graduate programs. And we have begun expanding our programs in this area in bioengineering and molecular biology to support that. In terms of physical locations for the Institute, there actually are two physical locations. One is in association with UPMC Hammett in downtown Erie. The Clinical Translational Research Center will be located down there, and Dr. Szynski will talk a little bit about that a little later in this presentation. Here in here on campus at Barron, we are building facilities which will support the institute, including what we call a biomedical translational research laboratory that is near completion in one of the buildings in Knowledge Park on our campus. This kind of infrastructure is essential to developing the research institute. There has to be a place where this occurs. There has to be infrastructure to be able to support the clinical trials and the research that will be going on at MWRI in Erie. We have some new academic initiatives, as I mentioned. We are providing new programs, including programs in biochemistry, molecular biology, biomedical engineering, and in the future, bioinformatics. All of these fields have the word bio in front of them, and you know, this is one of the future areas that I think our students and our graduates will benefit from greatly. I've been in this field for quite some time, biomedical and molecular biology research. And I always tell my students, you know, this is a new and growing area. There are new companies forming all the time and companies merging, et cetera. The job security is, you may switch jobs quite a bit in this field, but you will always have career security because this is an area that is going to grow tremendously throughout the country and throughout the world. We've made a couple of faculty hires already this year. Two of them assistant professors in biochemistry and molecular biology. One is Dr. Ashley Russell. She just completed her postdoctoral research fellowship at the Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine. And Dr. Russell is a Barron grad and has went on to do graduate work and get her PhD in a very highly sought after field in the area of molecular biology and cellular biology. Did her postdoc research fellowship at Johns Hopkins, and is really on a trajectory to do advanced research in molecular biology and cell biology. And I think without MWRI, it would have been difficult for her to come to Barron to become a faculty member at her alma mater because we didn't have much of that. And now with our research institute, it provided a pathway for Ashley to return to Erie. Dr. Jeremiah Keys is also an assistant professor of biochemistry and molecular biology. He had just finished his postdoctoral research fellowship at UC San Diego. He's from the West, from Utah, and he has moved his family from San Diego to Erie, and they are well established here. They moved this summer. Both these faculty members are very busy teaching classes this fall and setting up their research laboratories. We're very happy and very lucky to have these two excellent faculty members doing both teaching and research in this area. As far as infrastructure, we built an advanced molecular biology teaching laboratory to support those courses that I talked about, those minors in biochemistry, molecular biology, as well as bioengineering. They're almost complete. This is one of the laboratories near completion. I took this photo a few days ago. And we built a translational research facility. It's about 2,200 square feet. It has a cell culture laboratory, which we can grow human cells in, an advanced microscopy laboratory, and a molecular biology lab area. So it's divided up, and we're near completion on that too. So there's a photo of sort of one of the corners of that laboratory that I just took day before yesterday. We should be able to have these this laboratory up and running for the beginning of the spring semester, and we can get research going on in there beginning in the new year. So we're very, very, very excited about this facility. So just to summarize, where we've been for the past year, we have 2 new faculty members on board that are moving along. Collaboration with the investigators at MWRI is an important part of this approach in this institute. So we've been set up a seed grant program, which we've dedicated $50,000 to collaborative research, and those applying for it have to be there has to be a Barron faculty member and a MWRI investigator that are jointly doing a pilot project. We also have scheduled a joint Barron MWRI retreat for faculty and investigators, which will be held on November 20th. It will be partially in person and mostly virtual. Dr. Cieszynski will talk about this, but MWRI in Pittsburgh has just recently voted to provide affiliate faculty status to our Barron faculty members to facilitate this collaboration. And as I mentioned, the infrastructure has been right on track, even through COVID, which is a tremendous kudo to our people in facilities here to make that happen while we've been struggling through COVID. Now I'm going to turn it over to my colleague and friend, Dr. Helena Cieszynski, who will talk a little bit about what's happening downtown and in Oakland with regard to MWRI Erie.
Thank you, Ivor. Hello, everybody. Good morning. Thank you for this opportunity to share some good news in a year that's been challenging for all of us, election or not. You forget about COVID in the midst of all this election news that's been going on. As Ivor mentioned, I am honored to represent the investigators of the Magee Women's Research Institute in Oakland here in Erie. This is an expansion that is clearly focused on being a win-win for both the scientists and investigators in the Pittsburgh area, as well as those in Erie on the Penn State Barron campus. For those of you who don't know, we have celebrated our 25th anniversary as a research institute. We are the largest institute dedicated to women's and infants, specifically gender-based medicine, science, and discoveries overall. And we'll shortly talk about our vision, if you could forward the slide. But it was 25 years ago that a team of scientists, my chairman at that time, Rick Sweet, Jim Roberts, came from UCSF, which is a powerhouse in research and healthcare. And they became the leadership of the University of Pittsburgh School of Medicine, Department of OBGYN. And their vision was to build a center dedicated exclusively to women's health. As a team with the investigators, we wrote this vision statement, which was really to see a better, healthier world in which women's health has the scientific prominence and cultural status it deserves. Many of you are likely aware, having read even in the lay literature, about how many, for example, pharmaceuticals and medications were exclusively tested initially in male research subjects. Once the FDA approved, they were administered and prescribed to women, only to discover that our hepatic, our renal metabolisms really affected the drug dosages, whether excessive levels, in the case of Ambien, for example, or insufficient levels, really had a secondary deleterious impact on treatment plans. And so amongst other things, whether it's how our bodies tolerate radiation to how women's bodies metabolize drugs and respond, What are our vulnerabilities to sexually transmitted diseases? How do genetics, genomics impact our vulnerability to malignancies and cancers, especially those affected by our environment? These are all the answers that we seek to find, seek to contribute to. Could you advance the slide, please? In the year plus that the Research Institute operations in Erie was announced and our partnership with Penn State Behrend, we have, like everyone else, struggled with COVID, had been shut down, and research was considered a dispensable or non-essential service, at least in the spring when we had little understanding of how COVID was going to impact operations. By late summer, that did reopen. We used the time well to build infrastructure. We've hired 5 really talented individuals, some from the outside, some from local and communities here, to begin to support this initiative, both on the basic science side as well as on the clinical side. You can advance the slide, please. Like Penn State Behrend, we focused on the design and the build out of 2 critical areas to conduct our research. You know, we are housed, the clinical research aspects are housed at the McGee Women's Hospital of UPMC Hemet downtown, as Ivor mentioned. Clinical care does not have built in it the infrastructure to conduct research. And so we negotiated, bartered, and David Gibbons generously identified some space for us to utilize, which we are building out. One of those areas is an obstetrical, it will include gynecologic surgical specimen procurement unit. Ashley Russell, the newest faculty member on Penn State, has already sought out specimens, but it is in this small laboratory housed right in the center of the labor and delivery unit that maternal blood and, amongst other things, quickly processed biopsies of placentas, as well as surgical specimens, will be processed, centrifuged, flashed, frozen, and prepared for long-term processing, both on the Penn State Behrend campus, as well as likely the specimens will get moved down when they need to be analyzed in Pittsburgh, because we don't have a research lab yet built. We've also worked on, if you will, forward the slides, Ivor, a clinical and translational research center. This is a patient-facing facility that, in the spirit of COVID and contemporizing, we will have a telehealth, teleresearch facility you could see built, where people can safely engage in research with investigators, perhaps throughout the country, if not the world. But we will be home-based there for the women of Erie, as well as for their children, to be able to be screened, recruited, consented. Surveys will be conducted here. Outcome studies will be conducted here. We will partner with the CLIA labs, as well as imaging facilities, both clinical facilities on the Hemet side, as well as cellular imaging that will be done on the Penn State side. But we're very excited about this space. It's expected to open either in December or early January, depending upon whether we will need to reassign some of the architects and builders to COVID demand space. You know, we have pop-up ICUs that are built up, negative airspace that needs to be created, but we look forward to this and utilizing this. Next slide, please. One of the other discoveries and focus for us has been in really breaking down the barriers of how Penn State Behrend faculty can engage in and work on a UPMC campus. it was Ashley Russell who very quickly hit the ground running, was very interested in getting access to placental and blood specimens. She thought the easiest way to get her research approved would be utilizing the the Penn State University Institutional Review Board, the IRB. Well, we discovered quickly that the Penn State IRB does not have authority to approve or oversee human investigations on UPMC campuses. That authority has been delegated to the University of Pittsburgh Human Investigation Committee. We are working on master agreements that will actually link, and in the case of human research, the Penn State IRB will be ceding authority to the University of Pittsburgh IRB. We've also arranged for master transfer agreements of the biospecimens from the biobank to be going back to the Penn State Behrend campus. These are some of the background invisible logistics that we've been working on to make research a success for both sides of the campuses here. Next slide, please. Something that is dear to my heart is clinical research. I'm a clinical translationist with NIH funding for over 20 years. From the perspective of what I knew I would be able to host and bring forward to Erie was a carefully curated list of clinical trials that have become available to the women of Erie. Many of them are focused on maternal morbidity and mortality, which is the platform upon which much of clinical research is done at the Magee Women's Research Institute. And you can see here in the timeline, we introduced a highly successful Healthy Hearts for New Moms research study, which specifically engages women who have been diagnosed with preeclampsia and gestational hypertension during their pregnancy. This is a disease that is although we think of it as a pregnancy disease, it's really a disease that manifests at the vascular and microvascular level, having a huge impact on cardiac, renal, or kidney function. Women from the community are enrolled in a prospective randomized trial. These women tend to also meet criteria for obesity. And in this trial, they are educated on the fact that pregnancy has unmasked a lifelong vulnerability to cardiac and renal disease. With the education comes the opportunity for lifestyle changes, being randomized to a virtual lifestyle coach or an in-person lifestyle coach with a focus on healthy eating and weight reduction. We have advanced the Magee Obstetrical and Maternal Infant Biobank, where blood specimens as well as placental specimens are procured in each trimester of pregnancy, with a focus on both environmental factors to disease processes as well as diabetes and pregnancy. I'm really excited with the imminent launch in November of a study that is focused on type 1 diabetics. These are women who are insulin dependent juvenile diabetics for years who are now becoming pregnant, as well as gestational diabetics. Again, pregnancy has been identified in many ways as a microcosm of the health of a woman throughout her lifespan. And the stressful environment of pregnancy reveals some of the challenges that it is expected women will face in their mid to latter years. The opportunity to impact on lifestyle changes in health in 20s and 30s actually has the, we believe and we hope to have an impact on the trajectory of health in mid to latter years. And in this study, we're looking to personalize and customize treatment plans throughout the pregnancy and moving forward in women who manifest diabetic tendencies. On November the 11th, we'll be meeting with the Hillman Cancer Centers. They specifically have a community network of sites, which we anticipate we will be for the Erie community. As you know, Erie has welcomed the Hillman Cancer Center for clinical care and clinical protocols. This will, we hope, will be an opportunity for women's cancer research, both breast cancer research as well as gynecologic malignancies, both as a welcoming site, a medical home, and a follow-up research site. It is impossible to do research without infrastructure, without research coordinators, screeners, follow-up sites, a place that is outside of the busy bustle of clinical care. And MWRI here at Erie on the Magee Women's Campus will have the opportunity to welcome women as well as investigators, marry the two, and make it a success. Moving forward, Ivor, if you can advance the slide, please. Oh, I think he's here. Ivor, are you with us?
I'm here. I'm trying to advance the slide and it is not moving. I apologize.
That's okay. No worries. Ivor has mentioned a little bit about some of the other initiatives that we've taken advantage of in this early partnership moving forward. Yep. And amongst other things, the Research Institute, which will be hosted by Behrend, has the opportunity for investigators on both campuses to meet some of the state college investigators also. Katerina Makova is the director of Center of Medical Genomics. She will be a keynote speaker at this Research Institute. It's a new relationship. The chairman of the Department of OBGYN at Hershey, which has close affiliation, of course, with Penn State, is Rick LeGros. Rick and I were residents together in the 1980s. He intends to be there. We will be building stronger ties with the main campus also. There'll be other keynote speakers that Yoel Sadowski, the executive director of the Magee Women's Research Institute, is dear friends with, Dr. Ritchie and Alder Milstein. These are internationally renowned speakers who will be focusing on the opportunities that are provided with big data. The beauty of that is in the era of COVID, there's an opportunity to mine data and make discoveries that will impact health, identify risk factors and optimal outcomes, durability of interventions, et cetera, et cetera. So we're very excited and grateful for the generosity of the Behrend team in hosting this Research Institute retreat. Next slide, please. Jim Roberts is the founding executive director of the Magee Women's Research Institute in Oakland. It was 25 years ago that he came from UCSF with Rick Sweet. And he's got 3 decades of experience to share with us on how he built the empire of MWRI and what it took to continue to build collaborations and to share data and opportunities as well as grad students. So we look forward to his invited presentation. Ashley Russell, Jeremiah Keys, as well as David Peters from MWRI will have an opportunity to discuss their works in progress. The WIP conferences are weekly conferences we intend to extend to the Penn State Behrend investigators. It's an opportunity to report on progress and also to get feedback from investigators outside the immediate discipline, but successful researcher and successful fund grantees, grant recipients, to help guide and mentor these junior investigators on their path to independent funding. Next slide, please. The seed grant, something that Dr. Knight mentioned, our first round of applications will be this December with awards in January of 2021. We're really looking forward to fostering collaborative research. You need to put your money where your mouth is. You know, during COVID, everybody found different ways of entertaining themselves. In our household, we are passionate about beer, and we decided to brew Pandemic IPA in our household. And that's where you discovered how beer is made. Our kids were having a blast in the process too. But whether it's sourdough packets to make bread or the yeast packets to brew your beer or your wine, these seed grants are critical in not only fostering collaborative research opportunities, but also our intention is to identify projects that hold good prospects for subsequent external funding, to be self-sustainable, to bring investigators in front of the podium at national meetings, to continue to garner national reputation for Penn State Behrend and MWRI investigators. We do have an initial 50,000. It is my intent to be able to provide these grants ideally twice a year. If we are able to continue to have philanthropic funding for this. And not everybody has the idea that they're looking for that pilot project when the deadlines are called, but certainly if they knew that these were cycles that were given every 6 months, we could look forward to mature ideas in the next cycle. Lastly, in the slide to follow, I really think that in the 7 years that I have been a clinician on the Hammett campus, I would start the news at 6 a.m. and it inevitably was house fires, drug arrests, murders, et cetera, that started my day. And I am so pleased that this initiative has brought positive press and community pride. We continue to lobby hard for as much positivity that the achievements on the Penn State campus, as well as MWRI, each baby step that we move forward with, we look forward to sharing with the community. I have reached out to the psychology departments. In many ways, I serve as a marriage, not a marriage counselor, but if you will, an agent of bringing investigators together. We most recently found a team in Oakland that was looking at building surveys, and Ivor has helped us find psychology as well as business school faculty who have experience in garnering the community perspectives on survey building. And that's what we continue to look forward to doing, helping each side, I think, build their portfolio of successful projects and hopefully independent funding from outside grants. Thank you for this opportunity to update you on what we're achieving. Happy to answer any questions that may come forth as a result of the presentation.
Well, thank you both very much for a very exciting project. As I'm sitting here, I'm reminiscing about 2 years ago when this conversation started on the Penn State Behrend side. And this is a bit of a shout out, but none of this happens without leadership. And Chancellor Ford, identified this opportunity and really seized the opportunity and brought very talented people like Dr. Knight and others into the equation. And it is one of the most exciting things I've seen in Erie. I've heard people compare it to GE starting in Erie and how many businesses have spawned from General Electric being here for so many years. There are lots of small mom and pop shops and medium-sized businesses. So that leads into my question to start this off. And we do have a number of questions that I'll get to, but my question is probably more directed to Ivor, but also Dr. Ciesinski, on the economic development impact and the kind of future. What do you see in the next 5 to 10 years for the Erie economy and how this could grow other related businesses to what you two are doing?
Well, great question, Kevin. It's one we get quite a bit. And I guess what I would advise, anytime you're starting in a new area, patience is important. I think we're looking at this in a fairly long-term perspective. So building a new industry or business area in Erie will take some time, but there could be certainly early wins in terms of, especially as we do move into some of these clinical trials. If a protocol or a product is something that has great interest from a company may want to locate part of their business here in order to continue to expand those trials and to expand the capability of utilizing those. One thing that I could see happening in the nearer future is because we have a great strength in plastics manufacturing here, there are many medical devices that can be devised and actually tested here through clinical trials in Erie. So this sort of ecosystem of manufacturers, researchers in the plastics area, and the McGee Women's Research Institute that can work with in terms of the clinical trials and the data analysis. And I could see out of something like that, companies could emerge to promote that. And then the idea is that as smaller companies begin, larger companies, the way this business works is larger companies like to invest and join. And then I could see in the longer term, more major, for example, pharmaceutical companies or medical device companies could become very interested in Erie, could see that there's an opportunity to establish a plant or a research area right here in Erie. So it's sort of like an organic growth thing that can happen. Those are the kinds of things that could be happening.
What I would
Lena?
add to that is, as a clinician administrator and chairman of the department, I have been actively involved in the recruitment aspects of bringing physicians of various subspecialties. The fact is that men and women, children from the Erie community continue to have to travel far to get subspecialty care, whether it's to the Cleveland Clinic or down to Pittsburgh, to many of the larger quaternary care facilities. We are eager to recruit subspecialists, bulk out, deepen that bench of whether it's dermatology, gastroenterology, pulmonology, critical care, oncologists to the Erie community. Those recruits, when we interview them, come with families. They come with spouses who are well educated and oftentimes professionals. Unless there's something for the whole family, it's really hard to recruit that talent. I see the Research Institute, on a very small basis, our 5 hires, for example, this year can easily become 10 hires as we take on more clinical protocols and trials, particularly if the Hillman trials, the cancer trials, and the community networks come on board. So those will be nurses, those will be graduate students in laboratory technologies for specimen procurement and analyses. Those will be, many times they're just basic science, or they could be journalism, communication majors, people who just have excellent communication skills and engagement, marketing, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll certainly hire those people, but I think more than anything, we're going to bring talent to Erie, and we'll be able to be more successful and competitive in our recruitment efforts. I expect to be able to engage with the various undergraduate campuses. We have schools of nursing. In the case of Penn State Behrend, of course, we're building new programs and looking forward to master's level students. I would very much like to see the expansion of a college student summer internship program once again to bring the high school and college age students from this community the opportunity to return home for the summer for excellent summer career development and exploration opportunities. Right now, those internships are in Chicago, in Pittsburgh, in New York City, in Atlanta. Why do these young, brain drain is what we continue to foster, right? They should have an opportunity to come back home. I can tell you my own children, when they came back to Pittsburgh post-college and began to discover a very different Pittsburgh from the little microcosm that they knew on their school bus trips or crew team trips, there is a lot to our home cities that the 20-somethings can discover and want to stay here for. So we look forward to giving them the opportunity to return home.
That's a great transition to the next question, which is, do you expect that the Barron students will be able to work with and learn from researchers and staff of MWRI in Erie and or Pittsburgh?
Absolutely. We actually were going to execute the internship program this summer, and we had at least one student who was going to spend part of the internship in Pittsburgh this summer. Helena and I really wanted to get this going early, right out of the gate, but COVID slammed us on that. So I think that there is great opportunity for not only internships, but as you know, our Barron students are, many of them are actively engaged in research while they're on campus during the academic year as well as the summer. So there will be opportunities for students to conduct research both in the new laboratories on campus as well as working downtown and in variety of areas that, as Helena mentioned, not just the bench level biochemistry research, but also interacting with patients and interacting and providing other types of skills that our business students and our psychology students and others would be able to
It was just a month ago that the steering committee of the McGee Women's Research Institute unanimously voted for the first time ever to accept applications for affiliate status of membership from the faculty at Penn State Barron. We have previously restricted membership and participation to the University of Pittsburgh, as well as UPMC clinician scientists. So this is a first, and with that membership comes the opportunity to, I think, engage, just see the creative ideas that we host a lot of undergraduate students in Oakland. Just to be able to see what type of projects these students can participate in. In the event of the college student summer program, we actually had sufficient funding from donors to house the students 2 nights a week at the local Hampton Inn, which is literally across the parking lot from the McGee Women's Research Institute. So it was a hybrid program where 3 days a week they were mentored by a faculty member here in Erie. 2 nights a week, 2.5 days, they were actually participating in career development programs that were completely, they have lunch and learns, they have guest lectures about the various disciplines, whether it's following a STEM path in dentistry, nursing, medicine, basic sciences. That'll hopefully be around next year. The fact is,
yep, we're going to do it this summer, right, Helena?
Research labs, people are right next to each other. They literally shut everything down, including animal-based research, until we could figure out what to do with this virus. But hopefully that'll be the last shutdown we all experience.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you. So the next question is, what's the timeline for approval for the IRB issues, and will that happen quickly?
If the question relates to the master agreement, in my last communication, which was about 2 weeks ago, the University of Pittsburgh was reaching out to the Penn State IRB, which is actually a main campus based. Once that master agreement takes place, and I don't know what that timeline is right now. Lawyers get involved in master agreements. And if there are any lawyers on this morning Rise and Shine session, we of course like to blame them. Once that agreement, this is not a monetary thing. It's just a willingness to cede authority, which I think that here it should be relatively straightforward. The master agreements work. In the case of Ashley Russell, we always have a plan B. There's got to be a backdoor, right? The art of coming to yes in negotiations. And that is for Ashley. She has at least 2 co-investigators, if you will, sponsors at MWRI in Oakland who are willing to partner with her as co-investigators, submit the IRB application through Pitt, get the approval necessary for her access to research subjects, and then we'll work with the master agreement. It's a little bit more complex because it becomes a 2-step process, but until the lawyers give us our master agreement, we will work, if you will, with surrogates or sponsors from MWRI in Oakland to get the University of Pittsburgh approval that we need.
Excellent. It's all about collaboration. Again, I remember when I was involved, which was very early on, was the collaboration and saying, well, Pitt and Penn State, we're going to put those 2 together in a room. Anybody
not playing football.
Exactly. But it's a true testimony to the people involved, including you 2, and on back to how this all got started. Mike Anakin too at McGee. And I guess what I was thinking, Ivor, you mentioned plastics, and this goes back even further. Barron's strength has always been in collaboration and partnership with the community. It's part of the land grant mission of Penn State University to facilitate economic development. And it goes back to one of our guests that's on here today. I know he can't react, but I'm hoping he's smiling a little bit. But John Lilly, started that plastics industry collaboration back in the 80s during his 20-year tenure as a leader here at Barron. And that continues today with Chancellor Ford. I mean, that is what happened. So to get us collaborating, that's the way of the world, as we all know. The days of isolation and working alone on any project at work or in a collaborative model like this, success comes from the collaboration. So it's so important that you guys are sharing this.
Yeah, that's a great point, Kevin. I think we have lots of templates for figuring out how to collaborate with people that universities may or may not be used to collaborating with. So we have experience. And just going back to your point about the early days, there was some eyebrows raised at the very top of the university about the potential for us working with not only Pitt, but UPMC. To President Barron's credit, we made the case to President Barron, and he approved this. So he is from the very top. We have support for this. So it's a great thing to have throughout throughout the university. And we don't want to pull that lever for things like master agreements, but if we have to, we will.
Right. And our collaboration goes internally with the University Park campus. I mean, we partner on many different things internally. So and Barron seems to always be a good entry point for a lot of business and industry because of our size. We can move quickly, we can address issues, and we can offer results and channel the Penn State muscle through a focused lens here at Barron. It's been really exciting. I wanted to also get to the next question here. Is Barron looking at academic opportunities to react to potential growth in life sciences area that are predicted to come to Erie?
Well, growth in the question is about growth in our academic programs.
I think academic programming and where we're going to go with that.
Yeah. So we, as I said, we have activated Penn State's already on the books a minor in biochemistry and molecular biology, as well as the minor in biomedical engineering. There is hope that we can and plans to convert one or both of those into majors. So that's a big step in that direction. And then as we look at some of our existing programs, nursing, psychology, various engineering programs throughout the campus, actually, we can add minors and components that expand our academic offerings in the health sciences. So as you know, we sort of see this research collaboration as a driver of which programs we're going to move forward with, because there will be a need for a pipeline of talent, and it's not always going to be in the biochemistry area or the molecular biology area. It could well be in the genetics counseling area, or in the future, things like that. So
there's a desperate need for genetic counselors. And I can tell you that when we posted for medical, not medical, but laboratory technicians and technologists, which we obviously needed for our specimen procurement and processing unit, there were very few candidates who were local from the area. So there aren't a lot of training programs. These are hard to identify individuals. I certainly know there's clearly a shortage in nursing as the population ages, physical therapy, occupational therapy. Many of the professions that support our health, well-being, quality of life, but the laboratory sciences are very much in need of graduates in the area, and we'll be brainstorming together. I mean, I can definitely share where the struggles are in terms of getting the talent to Erie. So if we grow the talent, all the better. One of the best ways to address deficits we have found over the years is to just build a training program, get people to learn the area, and then recruit them immediately from that talent pipeline. We may do that, here too.
Well, I think that's the end of our questions. I see in our chat we have a link to support the program, and I wouldn't be a good development director if I didn't put a plug in for support, because none of this happens without funding. As Ivor led off with, this is a $26 million project, and Penn State is putting in $10 million of that. Mentioning Dr. Barron also prompted me that the university put in the $5 million economic development match funds for this. We have raised so far $2 million of that, just shy of $2 million. So we have $3 million to go in terms of absorbing that match fund from University Park. We've got about 1.5 years to do that yet, and we don't want to leave any money on the table. So for those in our audience, if they have an interest in supporting, it could be in any dollar amount using that link there. If you'd like to create a fund that is in a larger amount, I'd absolutely love to talk to you about that. But any of our funds that are going to be contributed to this project can be matched 1-to-1. It's a super project, and we're very appreciative of our partners so far that have got the $2 million, and we've got a little ways to go, but it's an exciting project and doing really well. So thank you for participating in today's webinar. We hope you found the information informative. To support the research efforts, please look at that link and support that. Again, in any dollar amount, it can be $25. Our next Rise and Shine webinar will take place on Thursday, December 3rd. Thank you again for attending today. We wish you all a great day and a calm life going forward.
Thank you. Thanks, Kevin. Have a great day.
You guys too. Thank you for your time.
All righty.